So in modern history, Democrats have traditionally, or African Americans have traditionally voted Democrat. But in this upcoming election, what could Republicans do to earn the black vote? How can they communicate to the black community in order to gain their support?
I have to explain to them exactly what the Democratic policies are and how they're not helping. The Democratic policies and in most elections are to offer blacks an opportunity to be more dependent upon the government. That's not what Martin Luther King wanted. That's not what the foundation of free black people were. They never wanted to be supported by the government. Well, that's exactly what the Democrats are. That's exactly what Black Lives Matter is looking for. That's exactly what the majority of your black mayors and governors around the United States are selling black people. That if you vote for us, we'll take care of you. We'll make it to where things are easier on you. Remember when Barack Obama was elected president, there were groups of blacks who came out publicly and said, we're going to get free rent, we're going to get free cars. And just this idea of self-sufficiency is not being preached amongst blacks. And if you want to hearken back to civil rights, make them understand that this is the part of where you get to control your own destiny, not the government.
But that's such a cultural thing that needs to be changed in a cultural way. How can Republicans change their narrative to reach that? Because once you're hooked on a culture of entitlement, once government is giving you free things, whether it's healthcare or free phones, it's hard to get away from that. It's hard to want to be self-sufficient, to want to have a job, to want to earn your own way. How are politicians up on our stage going to convince everyday Americans that it's better to earn your own way than to have government give you free things in exchange for a little bit of freedom?
I have to show them more of the blacks who are conservative, who look at the heights that they have reached versus the heights that the blacks who are Democrats have reached. There's a cap on what they can do. I always equated to this. You can be a battered wife, but be the battered wife of a guy who buys you trinkets. He buys you trinkets, he beats on you, he cheats you. He cheats on you. Who would sign up for that? Most people, when explained to them that way, they'd say, no, I wouldn't sign up for that. It's not worth it. Well, that's what the Democratic Party is. They give you a couple of trinkets and they beat you and they cheat on you. And after they've had you, they are off to the next person. That's what they're doing. The only time they even address the black vote is during some type of election. The only time they address the things that they promise black people, which they never deliver, is during an election. Now, blacks have become so dependent upon the government that small cap, that small little watch, that small ring, that small spa appointment has become enough because they can't see anything different. So if you guys would reach out more to the conservatives who have reached the levels of Ben Carson, who have reached the levels of Charles Barkley and things like that, people who have reached these heights, who say that once you took the cap off of me, look at what I was able to achieve. Highlight and showcase those people. Then you'd see a difference.
So you think that Republicans should be more blunt about this and not sort of dance around the topics, the issues so much, and actually be very upfront, very direct about the harm that Democratic liberal policies are causing to the black community, to the black family, and then show examples in contrast of what conservative policies, self-sufficiency, earning your own way, can do for the potential of the individuals?
Right. You have to do that. You have to show them that there is more out there, that you have to show the wife who believes that it's okay to be beaten on and cheated on, that there's more to life than just a couple of trinkets. If you can do that, I mean, look at what I do. When we were talking about Ben Fields, the officer in the Spring Valley High School, what I did was for a whole day, point out all of the instances where black students were beating up on the officers, beating up on the students, beating up on the principals for one day. I showed them what had been happening in the last 3 days. Most blacks looked at that and was like, wow, we are concentrating on this one officer who had to be brought in by a black teacher and a black principal to finally deal with a black student. And yet we don't talk about any of these other incidences that happen every day. You have to use the same approach.
And speaking of race relations and the war on cops, how important do you think it is for Republicans to address that more directly? That's another topic that they haven't talked about too directly. They haven't debated too much. How direct and blunt do you think Republicans need to be to the black community about race relations in our country?
This is where you need to reach out to more black conservatives. I've been allowed to say more things than the typical white person would ever be able to say. I put out a video called Dear White Cops. And what I talked about was I said, you know what? I'd be slower to inner cities when I was getting called. If I'm going to places where they don't want me, why would I show up? I feel really bad for white cops for this one reason. Because if they go and do their job and the people who they're doing their job for just decide that they're mad, they can lose their careers, they can lose their lives over just trying to do their job amongst a group of people who don't want them there or who are looking for any way that we don't like how you did your job, we're going to get your job taken away from you. This is unfair to them. So at a certain point in time, you need more people like me who can say whatever they want to. I can get on television right now and call you all kinds of racist names, and it would never hurt my name because I'm black and I'm talking to you as a white woman. It would never harm me. You need to have someone who actually has that shield behind them. I'm sorry to say it, but we are in a society now that if a woman calls another woman the B word or the C word, nothing happens to her because she has that diplomatic immunity. You need to start using that diplomatic immunity.
It's a double standard of political correctness. Tommy, thank you for joining me tonight.